I'm Sarah Mitchell, 32, stepping into the family party at the Waldorf Astoria, New York. My pulse racing. My sister, her smile sharp, shoves a bucket and rag into my hands. "You're just a toilet cleaner now," she hisses, pushing me toward the restroom as guests smirk. I clench my jaw, forcing a smile. Suddenly, a Pentagon official posture rigid strides through the crowd. "It's an honor to meet you, Senior Agent Ma'am," she declares, voice cutting like a blade. The room freezes. My sister's face pales, the bucket slipping from her grip, clattering to the floor. Ever been humiliated by your own family? Smash that subscribe button and share your story in the comments. Let's talk about rising above. 8 years ago, at 24, I walked away from Mitchell Defense Solutions, the family empire built on Pentagon contracts and ruthless ambition. My mom, Catherine, had spent my childhood grooming me to take the helm, her voice sharp, with plans for me to secure billion-dollar deals. "You're our future," she'd say, her gaze cutting like a knife. My dad, Robert, offered rare nods of approval, each one a treasure I'd fought for. My sister, Jennifer, 3 years older, hovered in the shadows, ready to steal my spot. But their world of boardrooms and power games wasn't mine. I wanted to serve my country, not their profits. So I applied to the Defense Intelligence Agency, choosing a path of purpose over their penthouse. The day I told them, I stood in our family's sleek Manhattan living room, heart pounding but voice steady. "I'm joining DIA," I declared. Mom's face twisted into a scowl. "You're tossing our legacy for a government job," she hissed, her words like venom. Dad turned to the window, his silence heavier than her anger. Jennifer leaned against the wall, a smug grin spreading. "She's not built for this, Mom. Let her go." That moment severed us. They cut me off, no calls, no letters, no trace of the daughter they'd raised. I was alone, but I was free. At DIA, I built a new life from scratch. Starting as a junior analyst, I spent nights decoding encrypted files, my eyes burning from the screen. By 28, I was leading cybersecurity audits, spotting flaws that could cripple defense systems. Now at 32, I'm a senior agent trusted with missions that save lives. Every cracked code, every exposed breach buried the sting of that day. Mom's scorn, Dad's silence, Jennifer's smirk. They haunted me, but I channeled the pain into my work. I wasn't just good, I was relentless. Last week, my boss, Colonel Hayes, called me into his office at DIA headquarters, his voice gruff as gravel cut through the hum of phones. "Mitchell Defense Solutions is bidding on a $2 billion Pentagon contract. Their system's got red flags, glitches, maybe worse. You're our best auditor. Get in there and dig up the truth." I nodded, my chest tightening. This wasn't just a job. It was my family's company. I knew what I'd face: Mom's manipulative charm, Dad's cold distance, Jennifer's gloating as the heir apparent. But this wasn't about them. Lives hung on a secure system, and I wouldn't let personal history cloud my duty. The night before the party, I sat in my hotel room, laptop open to the company's filings. The documents were a mess. Vague budgets, rushed deadlines, subcontractors with murky records. My instincts screamed trouble, the kind that could tank a contract or endanger national security. I flashed back to my first big DIA case, auditing a contractor in Virginia. I'd found a hidden backdoor in their code left by a sloppy programmer. It took 3 sleepless days, but I saved a $500 million deal from collapse. This felt bigger, uglier. If Mitchell Defense Solutions was cutting corners, I'd expose it no matter the cost. Mom's face flashed in my mind, her relentless drive, her vision of me as her puppet, not a person with my own dreams. Dad's fleeting smiles, always for Jennifer's triumphs, never mine. Jennifer, the golden child, basking in their favor while I scrapped for crumbs. They'd made their choice 8 years ago, and I'd made mine. Returning to their world now, I felt the weight of those years, not as anger, but as clarity. I wasn't here to fix old wounds or win their approval. I was here to do my job. My phone buzzed with a DIA alert: the Pentagon needed answers by Monday. 2 days to audit the system, uncover any flaws, and report back. I knew Mom would try to pull me back into her plans, Dad would ignore me, and Jennifer would flaunt her power. But they couldn't sway me. I'd faced tougher challenges: encrypted networks, hostile contractors, high-stakes deadlines. This was just another mission. I shut my laptop, my resolve like iron. Mitchell Defense Solutions wasn't just a family business, it was a potential threat to national security. If their system was compromised, I'd find it. If they were hiding something, I'd drag it into the light. I was a DIA senior agent here to protect my country, not their legacy. I walked into the Waldorf Astoria's grand ballroom, my heels clicking against the polished floor, my DIA badge tucked away in my purse. The chatter of elite guests, defense contractors, politicians, and old money filled the air. My dad Robert stood near the bar, his suit crisp, his face a mask of authority. He caught my eye, then looked away as if I were a stranger. "Sarah, grab a tray," he said, voice flat, pointing to a stack of drink trays. I bit back a retort, picked up a tray, and started weaving through the crowd, balancing champagne flutes while dodging judgmental glances. My mom, Catherine, hovered near the stage, her elegant dress screaming power. She beckoned me over, her smile tight. "Clean up those spilled glasses," she whispered, nodding toward a table littered with empty flutes. "Don't embarrass us." I nodded. My jaw clenched and grabbed a rag, wiping down the table as guests whispered behind their hands. I wasn't their daughter tonight, just hired help. My sister Jennifer took the stage, her voice smooth as she addressed the room. "Mitchell Defense Solutions is proud to lead the future of national security," she declared, her smile radiant. "Our system will secure a $2 billion Pentagon contract, setting a new standard." The crowd clapped, impressed by her confidence. A contractor in a sharp suit raised his glass. "Jennifer, how's the system handling real-time threats?" he asked. Jennifer's smile faltered, her eyes darting to Dad. "It's cutting edge," she said, voice vague. "We're finalizing details." I paused, rag in hand, noting her dodge. Another guest pressed, "What about encryption protocols?" Jennifer laughed too loud. "All under control," she said, pivoting to a toast. I narrowed my eyes. She was hiding something. As I carried a tray of drinks, Mom pulled me aside, her grip tight on my arm. "You're making a fool of yourself, Sarah," she hissed loud enough for nearby guests to hear. "Chasing childish dreams while Jennifer carries our legacy. You're nothing but a disappointment." Her words stung, but I kept my face neutral, refusing to give her the reaction she wanted. "Just doing what you asked, Mom," I said, voice steady, and walked away, tray in hand. Guests murmured, their pitying looks cutting deeper than her words. I moved to the edge of the room, pretending to adjust a tablecloth, but my mind was racing. Jennifer's evasiveness wasn't just nerves, she was covering something up. I'd audited enough contractors to recognize the signs: rushed answers, vague promises, a sheen of sweat on her brow. Mitchell Defense Solutions was pitching a system they couldn't back up, and I was here to find out why. I caught Dad's eye across the room. He turned away again, his dismissal sharper than any insult. Jennifer, still on stage, basked in applause, but her glances toward Dad screamed insecurity. A waiter bumped into me, spilling wine on my dress. "Sorry, miss," he muttered, but Mom was already there, her voice sharp. "Sarah, clean it up. Don't stand there looking useless." I grabbed a napkin, dabbing at the stain, my cheeks burning as guests watched. I wasn't just invisible to my family, I was a prop, a reminder of their control. But I wasn't here to play their game. I was here to do my job, and Jennifer's dodgy answers were my first clue. I slipped to a quiet corner, setting down the tray. A guest, an older man in a military uniform, approached. "You're with Mitchell Defense?" he asked, eyeing my stained dress. I shook my head, keeping my voice low. "Just helping out." He nodded, unaware of my real role. I watched Jennifer work the crowd, her charm masking her unease. She avoided another technical question, redirecting with a joke. My gut twisted. The system was flawed, and she knew it. This wasn't just a family party, it was a stage for their lies, and I was the only one looking for the truth. As the night wore on, I kept moving, serving drinks, clearing tables, all while listening. Every dodged question, every nervous glance from Jennifer added to my suspicions. Mom's public jab echoed in my head, but I pushed it aside. This wasn't about their approval. It was about the mission. If Mitchell Defense Solutions was cutting corners, I'd find the evidence no matter how much they tried to bury me in their shame. The ballroom buzzed with chatter glasses clinking as I stood in the shadows, a tray of empty flutes in my hands. Jennifer was still on stage, her voice smooth, deflecting another technical question with a polished smile. I scanned the crowd, my pulse steady despite the wine stain on my dress. Then the air shifted. A woman in a sharp navy suit cut through the guests, her presence commanding silence. Elizabeth Warner, Pentagon official, strode forward, her eyes locking onto me. I set the tray down, straightening as she approached. Agent Mitchell Warner, said, her voice clear and authoritative, slicing through the room's hum. It's an honor to meet the senior agent overseeing our contract audit. The crowd froze. Gasps rippled around me. Jennifer's smile vanished, her microphone trembling in her hand. Dad's head snapped up from the bar, his eyes wide. Mom's champagne flute tilted, nearly spilling as she stared, mouth agape. I nodded, keeping my expression neutral. "The honor's mine, Ms. Warner," I replied, my voice calm but firm. Inside, my mind raced. This was it, the moment my family's facade would crack. Warner turned to the crowd, her tone unwavering. "Agent Mitchell's work ensures our national security. Her audit of Mitchell Defense Solutions will determine if their system meets Pentagon standards." The guests murmured, their eyes darting between me and Jennifer, who stood rigid on stage. Jennifer recovered fast, stepping down and rushing toward Warner, her heels clicking frantically. "Ms. Warner, I'm Jennifer, leading our company's efforts," she said, her voice overly bright, her hand extended. Warner shook it briefly, her gaze cool. "I'm aware of your role," Warner said, then turned back to me. "Agent Mitchell, I look forward to your findings tomorrow." Jennifer's smile twitched, her eyes flashing with panic. She glanced at Dad, who stood motionless, his face pale. Mom stepped forward, her charm kicking in. "Ms. Warner, we're so proud of our company's work," she said, her voice syrupy, ignoring me entirely. I stayed silent, observing every move. Jennifer's quick recovery screamed desperation. She was hiding something, and Warner's presence rattled her. Dad's stillness wasn't his usual dismissal. It was fear. Mom's forced smile couldn't mask her unease. I'd audited enough contractors to know the signs of a cover-up: nervous glances, over-eager charm, a rush to redirect. Warner's public acknowledgement had just blown their carefully curated image apart. A guest, a gray-haired CEO, approached Warner. "So Agent Mitchell's running the audit?" he asked, eyeing me with new respect. Warner nodded. "She's one of DIA's best. Her report will decide the contract's fate." Jennifer laughed, too shrill, cutting in. "We're fully prepared, Ms. Warner. Our system's flawless." Her eyes flicked to me, sharp with warning. I met her gaze, unflinching. She wasn't fooling me. Those dodged questions from earlier weren't just nerves, they were cracks in her story. Mom pulled Warner aside, offering a tour of the company's display booth. "Let me show you our vision," she said, her arm looping through Warner's. Warner politely declined, her focus still on me. "I'm here to discuss the audit, not displays," she said, her tone clipped. Mom's face tightened, her charm faltering. Dad finally moved, approaching Warner with a forced grin. "We're thrilled to have Agent Mitchell's expertise," he said, his voice strained, avoiding my eyes. The lie was blatant. He hadn't known my role until now. I kept my composure, my hands steady as I picked up the tray again, blending back into the crowd. But my mind was sharp, cataloging every detail: Jennifer's panicked glance at Dad, Mom's desperate pivot, Dad's sudden deference. They weren't just shocked, they were scared. Mitchell Defense Solutions was hiding something big, and Warner's arrival had exposed their vulnerability. I caught Jennifer whispering to Dad, her gestures frantic. She thought she could charm her way out, but Warner wasn't here for flattery. As Warner walked away, guests swarmed me, their questions piling up. "You're with DIA," one asked. "How long have you been auditing?" another pressed. I deflected with a smile. "Just here to do my job," I said, slipping through the crowd. Jennifer watched me, her face a mix of fury and fear. She knew I was on to her, and I knew this night was only the beginning. My audit tomorrow would uncover the truth, no matter how hard they tried to bury it. I stepped into the glass-walled headquarters of Mitchell Defense Solutions in Manhattan, my laptop bag slung over my shoulder, my DIA badge clipped to my jacket. The Sunday morning air was crisp, but my focus was sharper. Yesterday's party had confirmed my suspicions. Jennifer was hiding something, and I was here to uncover it. I was led to a secure server room by Thomas Reed, a technician in his late 20s, his ID badge swinging as he walked. "Agent Mitchell, this way," he said, his voice low, almost nervous. I nodded, scanning the sleek corridors, my mind on the $2 billion Pentagon contract riding on this audit. Thomas unlocked the server room, a hum of machines greeting us. "This is the core of our defense system," he said, gesturing to rows of blinking servers. I set up my laptop, pulling up the system's code. "Let's start with the encryption protocols." I said, my fingers flying over the keys. Lines of code scrolled past, and within minutes I spotted the first red flag, a weak encryption key easily exploitable. "This is amateur," I muttered. Thomas shifted uncomfortably. "That's recent." Jennifer Mitchell pushed for a faster rollout. I raised an eyebrow. "Faster how?" I asked. Thomas hesitated, glancing at the door. "She cut testing phases," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "Said we had to beat competitors to the Pentagon bid." I leaned back, my gut twisting. A rushed system was a vulnerable one, and vulnerabilities in a defense contract could cost lives. I dug deeper, running diagnostics. The system's firewall had gaps, leaving it open to external attacks. "This could let hackers waltz in," I said, pointing at the screen. Thomas nodded, his face pale. I tried to warn her, but she wouldn't listen. As I traced the code, I found something worse, a hidden subroutine routing data to an offshore server. My pulse quickened. "Thomas, what's this?" I asked, zooming in on the code. He leaned over, his eyes widening. "That's not ours," he said, voice tight. "It's sending encrypted files to an IP in Eastern Europe." I cross-checked the logs. Millions of dollars worth of classified data had been siphoned off over months, tied to shell companies. This wasn't just a flaw. It was deliberate, illegal, and dangerous. "Jennifer approved this code?" I asked, my voice steady but cold. Thomas swallowed hard. "She signed off on every update," he said. "Told us to prioritize speed over everything else." I clenched my jaw, piecing it together. Jennifer Mitchell, desperate to secure the contract, had greenlit a system riddled with holes and tied to illicit deals. My family's company wasn't just incompetent, it was complicit. I pulled up financial records linked to the system's subcontractors. One name kept appearing, a firm called Novex Solutions, based in a tax haven. "Thomas, who hired Novex?" I asked. He shifted, avoiding my eyes. "Jennifer brought them on. Said they were cost-effective." I snorted. "Cost-effective for funneling millions to offshore accounts, maybe." The records showed payments of $10 million to Novex disguised as consulting fees. My stomach churned. This was bigger than a bad system, it was a betrayal of national security. I saved screenshots of the code and logs, my hands steady despite the anger simmering inside. "Thomas, you knew about this?" I asked, my tone sharp. He shook his head quickly. "Not the offshore stuff. I just followed orders." "Jennifer said it was all cleared." His voice cracked, and I believed him. He was a cog in their machine, not the mastermind. The server room door buzzed, and a security guard poked his head in. "Agent Mitchell Mins, Jennifer Mitchell wants to see you upstairs," he said. I closed my laptop, my resolve hardening. Jennifer must have heard I was here. She'd try to charm or intimidate me, but I wasn't the sister she could push around anymore. "Tell her I'll be there when I'm done," I said, my voice firm. The guard nodded and left. I turned back to Thomas. "Copy everything to this drive," I said, handing him a secure USB. "Every log, every transaction." He took it, his hands shaking. "This could ruin the company," he whispered. I met his eyes. If it's dirty, it deserves to fall. My mission wasn't about saving Mitchell Defense Solutions, it was about protecting my country. Jennifer's reckless ambition had put lives at risk, and I was going to prove it. As Thomas copied the files, I prepared for the next step. Tomorrow's boardroom meeting would be my chance to confront Jennifer, Dad, and Mom with the evidence. They thought they could bury their secrets, but I was digging them up piece by damning piece. I stood at the head of the conference table in Mitchell Defense Solutions' sleek Manhattan boardroom, my laptop open, the USB drive from yesterday's audit in my pocket. The Monday morning meeting was packed. Elizabeth Warner sat across from me, her navy suit crisp, her gaze steady. Dad sat at the table's far end, his face unreadable, fingers drumming silently. Mom was beside him, her lips a tight line, her eyes flicking between me and Warner. Jennifer, dressed in a power suit, stood near a projector, her confident facade cracking under the weight of my presence. My evidence, screenshots of weak encryption, firewall gaps, and offshore data transfers, was ready to change everything. Warner nodded at me. "Agent Mitchell, your findings?" she asked, her voice cutting through the room's tension. I took a breath, projecting my screen onto the wall. "Mitchell Defense Solutions system is critically flawed," I began, my voice steady. "The encryption keys are weak, easily breached by a basic attack. The firewall has gaps that could allow hackers to access classified data. Worse, I found a subroutine routing sensitive information to an offshore server in Eastern Europe, tied to payments of $10 million to a shell company, Novex Solutions." The room went silent. Jennifer's face paled, her hands gripping the projector. "That's absurd," she snapped, her voice too loud. "Our system is secure. Agent Mitchell must be mistaken." I met her eyes, unflinching. "The logs don't lie." "Jennifer Mitchell," I said, pulling up the data trail. "You signed off on every update, including the subroutine. Novex was your hire." Warner leaned forward, her expression grim. "These are serious allegations," she said. "If true, they're a breach of national security." Mom jumped in, her voice sharp. "Sarah, how dare you attack your own family?" she said, her words dripping with venom. "This is betrayal, pure and simple. You're tearing down everything we've built." I kept my gaze on Warner, ignoring Mom's jab. "My duty is to the truth," I said. "This system as it stands endangers lives. The Pentagon deserves to know." Warner nodded, her eyes narrowing at Jennifer. "Effective immediately, the contract is on hold pending a full investigation," she declared. Dad's fingers stopped drumming, his jaw tight. Jennifer's eyes darted to him, pleading. Jennifer tried to recover, stepping toward Warner. "Ms. Warner, this is a misunderstanding," she said, her voice trembling. "We can fix any issues. Our team is top tier." Warner cut her off. "You rushed a flawed system to secure this contract," she said, her tone icy. "Agent Mitchell's findings suggest negligence at best, criminal intent at worst." Jennifer flinched, her charm crumbling. Dad finally spoke, his voice low. "We'll address this internally," he said, avoiding my eyes. I shook my head. "This isn't an internal matter," I said. "It's a DIA investigation now." Mom stood her chair, scraping the floor. "You've always been ungrateful," she hissed, pointing at me. "We gave you everything, and you repay us with this sabotage." Her words stung, but I held my ground. "I'm not here to sabotage," I said, my voice firm. "I'm here to protect my country. If that means exposing your mistakes, so be it." Warner raised a hand, silencing Mom. "Agent Mitchell is doing her job," she said. "Your company's actions will face scrutiny, not hers." Jennifer slumped into a chair, her face a mask of panic. "We didn't know about the subroutine," she muttered, glancing at Dad. I didn't buy it. The logs showed her approvals, her rushed timelines, her choice of Novex. She wasn't just careless, she was complicit. Dad's silence confirmed my suspicions. He'd known something was off, but let Jennifer run the show. Mom's accusations were a desperate shield for their failure. Warner turned to me. Agent Mitchell, submit your full report to DIA by end of day, she said. We'll take it from here. I nodded, closing my laptop. Yes, ma'am. The room felt heavy, the weight of my family's empire cracking under the truth. Jennifer stared at the table. Dad avoided my gaze, and Mom's glare burned into me. They thought they could intimidate me, but I wasn't their pawn anymore. I'd exposed their lies, and the consequences were coming. As Warner gathered her notes, I slipped the USB drive into my bag. This wasn't over. My family's secrets ran deeper, and tomorrow's showdown would force them to face the full truth. I walked out, my resolve unshaken, ready to finish what I'd started. The boardroom doors closed behind Warner, leaving me alone with Dad, Mom, and Jennifer in the suffocating silence of Mitchell Defense Solutions' Manhattan headquarters. The Monday morning light filtered through the windows, casting long shadows across the polished table. My laptop was closed, but the USB drive in my pocket held the truth evidence of Jennifer's reckless system and illegal deals. Dad stood by the window, his back to me, his shoulders tense. Mom sat rigidly, her eyes burning with fury. Jennifer paced near the projector, her confident mask gone, replaced by a nervous twitch. This wasn't just about the contract anymore. It was about the lies they'd all buried. I broke the silence, my voice steady. You knew, I said, looking at Dad. You knew about Jennifer's deals with Novex Solutions, didn't you, Dad? His head snapped around, his eyes narrowing, but he didn't answer. I turned to Mom. And you, Catherine, you covered for her to protect the company. Mom's face twisted, her voice sharp. Don't you dare call me that, she snapped. You're no daughter of ours, throwing accusations to ruin us. Jennifer stopped pacing, her hands clenched. You're out of line, Sarah, she said, her voice shaking. You don't understand how this business works. I stepped closer, my gaze locked on hers. I understand enough, Jennifer Mitchell, I said. You approved a system full of holes, rushed it to win a contract, and funneled millions to a shell company. I have the logs. You weren't just sloppy, you were complicit. Jennifer's face drained of color, her eyes darting to Dad for rescue. Dad finally spoke, his voice low but heavy. Sarah, this isn't your place, he said, still avoiding my eyes. We handle our own problems. I shook my head, my chest tightening. Not when those problems risk lives, Robert, I said, his name cutting through the air. You let Jennifer run this scam, and you did nothing. His jaw clenched, but he stayed silent, his authority crumbling under the weight of my words. Mom stood her chair, scraping loudly. You ungrateful child, she hissed, pointing at me. We built this empire for you, and you tear it down out of spite. Her words hit like a slap, but I held my ground. This isn't spite. Catherine, I said, my voice cold. This is justice. You knew about the offshore transfers and let them happen. You chose profit over integrity. Mom flinched, her hands trembling, but she didn't deny it. The truth was too heavy to dodge. Jennifer tried to interrupt, her voice desperate. We didn't know it was illegal, she said, her eyes wide. Novex was a trusted partner. I pulled the USB drive from my pocket, holding it up. Trusted, I said, my tone sharp. You signed off on every payment, every code update. You knew the system was flawed, and you pushed it anyway. Jennifer shrank back, her excuses dissolving. I turned to Dad, my voice softening for a moment. Dad, you could have stopped this. Why didn't you? He looked away, his silence louder than any confession. The room felt smaller, the air thick with their guilt. I'd spent years chasing their approval, but now I saw them clearly, Robert and Catherine, architects of a crumbling legacy, and Jennifer, their chosen heir, drowning in her own ambition. I won't cover for you, I said, my voice firm. The DIA will have my report by tonight, and the truth will come out. Mom's eyes flashed with rage. You'll destroy us, she said. You'll destroy your own family. I shook my head. You destroyed yourselves, I said. I'm just the one holding the mirror. Jennifer sank into a chair, her hands covering her face. You don't get it, she muttered. We had to win that contract. Her voice broke, but I felt no pity. She'd chosen this path and Dad and Mom had paved it for her. Dad finally met my eyes, his face etched with something close to regret. Sarah, he said, his voice barely audible, this wasn't supposed to happen. I nodded, my resolve unshaken. But it did, Robert, I said. And I'm finishing it. I turned to leave the USB drive heavy in my hand. This wasn't the family I'd once fought to belong to. They'd made their choices, and I'd made mine. The door clicked shut behind me, their voices fading as I walked away, ready to face whatever came next. The truth was out, and no amount of their anger could bury it again. The elevator doors slid open and I stepped into the quiet hallway of Mitchell Defense Solutions' Manhattan headquarters, the weight of yesterday's boardroom showdown still lingering. It was late Monday afternoon, and the USB drive in my pocket held the final report I'd prepared for the DIA, every damning detail of Jennifer's flawed system and illegal deals with Novex Solutions. I was headed to my car when I heard her voice behind me. Sarah, wait. Jennifer called, her heels clicking against the marble floor. I turned, my expression guarded. She stood there. Her power suit wrinkled, her eyes red-rimmed, no trace of the confident sister who'd humiliated me at the party. Jennifer, I said, my voice steady but cold. What do you want? She hesitated, her hands twisting together. Can we talk? Just us. She asked, her tone softer than I'd ever heard. I glanced at my watch. The DIA was expecting my report by midnight, but I nodded. 5 minutes, I said, leading her to a nearby conference room. The door clicked shut, sealing us in with years of unspoken resentment. Jennifer sat across from me, her shoulders slumped. I messed up, Sarah, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I leaned back, arms crossed, waiting. She took a shaky breath. I've always been jealous of you, she admitted, her eyes meeting mine for the first time. You're brilliant, Sarah. You could have run this company better than me, but you walked away. You chose your own path, and I hated you for it. Her words hit harder than I expected, but I kept my face neutral. Jealous, I said, my tone sharp. You had everything, Mom and Dad's approval, the company, the spotlight. You didn't need to cut corners with Novex. Jennifer flinched, her hands gripping the table. I thought I could handle it, she said. The contract was our chance to prove ourselves, but the pressure. I panicked. Novex promised quick fixes and I trusted them. Her voice cracked, and for a moment I saw the sister I'd grown up with, not Jennifer Mitchell, the ambitious heir. I shook my head. You didn't just trust them, I said. You signed off on a system you knew was flawed. You sent classified data to an offshore server. That's not a mistake. It's a crime. Jennifer's eyes filled with tears, but I felt no urge to comfort her. I didn't know it was illegal, she said, her voice desperate. I just wanted to win. I leaned forward, my gaze steady. You wanted to win at any cost, I said. And now the DIA is coming for answers. Jennifer wiped her eyes, her voice trembling. You don't know what it's like, she said. Living under their expectations, always being compared to you even after you left. I clenched my jaw, her words stirring old wounds. I know exactly what it's like, I said. But I didn't sell out my country to prove myself. She looked away, her shoulders shaking, and for a moment silence hung between us. I stood, pulling the USB drive from my pocket. This report goes to the DIA tonight, I said. It details every flaw, every payment to Novex, every choice you made, Jennifer Mitchell. The investigation starts now. Jennifer's head snapped up, her eyes wide. You're really going through with it? She asked, her voice breaking. I nodded. It's my job, I said. And it's the right thing to do. I turned to leave, but Jennifer grabbed my arm. Sarah, please, she said, her voice raw. Can't you give us a chance to fix this? I pulled away, my resolve firm. You had your chance, I said. You chose ambition over integrity. I walked out, leaving her in the empty room, her sobs echoing behind me. Back in my car, I plugged the USB drive into my laptop and uploaded the report to the DIA's secure server. The file transfer completed with a soft beep, sealing Mitchell Defense Solutions' fate. I leaned back, staring at the city skyline as the weight of my decision settled. Jennifer's confession didn't change the truth: she'd betrayed her country, and I'd done my duty. The investigation would unravel the rest, and I was ready to face whatever came next. I sat in my car outside the DIA's New York field office, the city skyline fading into the Tuesday morning haze. The report I'd submitted last night was already making waves. Mitchell Defense Solutions was under full DIA investigation, and the truth about Jennifer's deals with Novex Solutions was unraveling. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Agent Mitchell, meet me at the office. Urgent. Rebecca Hayes, DIA intern. I slipped the phone into my pocket, my mind racing. The past 3 days had stripped away any lingering hope of salvaging my family ties. Robert, Catherine, and Jennifer had made their choices, and I'd made mine. I walked into the DIA office, my badge clipped to my jacket, and found Rebecca Hayes waiting in the lobby. She was young, barely 22, her brown hair tied back, her intern badge gleaming. Agent Mitchell, she said, her voice eager but professional. Thank you for coming. I nodded, following her to a small meeting room. What's this about, Rebecca? I asked, my tone calm but curious. She handed me a folder, her eyes bright. The director reviewed your report, she said. It's airtight. The investigation's moving fast, and they want you for a new role: senior advisor on defense contracts. I opened the folder, scanning the offer letter. The position was a step up, a chance to shape policy and prevent disasters like the one Jennifer Mitchell had caused. My heart steadied, a sense of purpose settling in. This is unexpected, I said, meeting Rebecca's gaze. She smiled. You earned it, she said. Your work exposed a major breach. The director trusts you to keep contractors honest. I nodded, signing the acceptance form. Tell the director I'm in, I said. Rebecca beamed, taking the folder. You won't regret this. Agent Mitchell, she said, heading out. Alone in the room, I leaned back, my thoughts drifting to Robert, Catherine, and Jennifer. I'd spent years chasing their approval, enduring their dismissal, their betrayal. Robert had let Jennifer's ambition run unchecked, Catherine had shielded her, and Jennifer had gambled with national security. Cutting them out wasn't easy, but it was necessary. They weren't my family anymore, not in the way that mattered. I'd chosen my path, one built on truth, not their lies. My phone buzzed again, this time with an email from the DIA confirming the investigation's scope. Jennifer Mitchell's name was listed alongside Novex Solutions with charges pending. Robert and Catherine weren't named yet, but their roles would come to light. I closed the email, feeling no satisfaction, only resolve. The truth had a way of breaking things apart, but it also cleared the way for something better. I stepped outside the city's hum, a quiet backdrop to my thoughts. I'd walked away from Mitchell Defense Solutions 8 years ago, choosing my own life over their empire. That choice had led me here, free, unbroken, and stronger than they'd ever expected. I wasn't just Agent Mitchell. I was Sarah, standing for what was right, no matter the cost. To anyone watching, I'd say this: living true to yourself and standing for justice outweighs toxic family ties. Blood doesn't bind you to people who tear you down. It's hard to let go, but when you do, you find your own strength. I did, and I'm not looking back. Thank you for following my story. If it hit home, smash that subscribe button and drop a comment below. Have you ever had to walk away from toxic ties to stand up for what's right? Let's talk about it. Your stories keep this channel alive, so share them and let's keep rising above together.